Welcome everybody to a new episode of Flower Circus Talks. Today we're going to talk about sea freight, with sustainability high on everybody's agenda already for years for most of us, and now also the air freight is limited. It's very expensive as well. Sea freight is more a hot topic than ever. That's why last Tuesday there was a seminar in Kenya. Named a sustainable trade route for Kenya, and friend of the show Jeroen van Hulst, founder and owner of Flower Watch, was there as well. He was one of the speakers with a lot of knowledge about the quality of flowers, about transport, and many more things. So I'm very happy that he's joining us today and to tell more about the sea freight and what they were telling during the seminar. So let's quickly get him into the live stream. And there he is.
Hey.
So
good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you again. Back in Holland. Just arrived yesterday, I think.
Yeah. Just spent the last 1.5 weeks in Kenya, and now trying to catch up on the other side of the supply chain.
Yeah. Okay. So. Sea freight, I mean, like I already said in the introduction, hot topic. It's been going on already for many years, but not in big volumes. Now with air freight, all those things, sustainability, higher and higher on the agenda. It looks like everybody is thinking this is the new gold almost, sea freight, or the new way to go.
Well, I can immediately disappoint you there. This will not be the quick way to get rich.
Okay.
I think as anything in all business, it will be a lot of hard work, a lot of smart ideas, and a lot of stamina to hold on and make this successful.
Yeah.
And what is big? I think the South Americans are ahead of us. I think there's also players elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
So it has been around. And I think it's just healthy for a business not solely to depend on one logistic mode. When you talk from East Africa to Europe, it will be just healthy to have another mode of transport. It will help us to be more resilient in times of crisis. It will help us to work towards sustainability.
Yeah.
It will help us to widen product range. It will help us to value adding. I just think it's a very new but also very healthy development, and not easy but within reach.
Yeah, I mean, you did a presentation there as well, and we have it ready for the people watching. Also for the people who don't have a lot of knowledge about sea freight, this will help you understand more what's going on there as well.
Yeah.
So if you're okay with it, Jeroen, I will start the presentation, and you can talk us through. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, so I can ask the question to Jeroen. So let's go. I will hide myself so everybody sees the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is the right format.
Yeah. No, thank you, Sean. No, this was a seminar last week hosted by Kenia Flower Council, the British High Commission, and the Netherlands Embassy in Nairobi. I think there have been a number of projects in sea freight over the last year. One of the farms, Flamingo, put in their own money and got a bit of support from UK Aid to develop sea freight trade lane. Netherlands Embassy delivered a study on how is the sea freight situation, the reefer, the fresh export sea freight situation for Kenya. So this presentation is very much Kenyan perspective, but any questions on other routes, other products, other markets? I think the main idea is, as in, hey, not easy, very worthwhile, and just a bit of the challenges that we've met over the last 1 year, and opportunities ahead of us.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide then.
Yeah. I think I'll just have 4 parts. Requirements for sea freighting flowers. And I think Kenya's farms and trading partners, they finally got it right. Sea freight, why now? And then opportunities when looking at sea freight and challenges to overcome.
Okay. Let me go to the next one. Yep, there we are.
Maybe just as the main thing, the requirements for sea freight, it's a no shortcuts approach. If you don't have a healthy crop, don't start. If you don't have the right varieties, don't even think of it. Then this is Premier League, Champions League for the players. We need to harvest at the right moment, and there's a lot of new technologies, packaging, cooling, dipping, controlling diseases. And I think that is where all of these steps together enable us to make this work. So that's one of the main requirements, and I'll take you through step by step in the process. If you can give the next slide, Sean.
Yeah, there it is.
I think that over the last 2, 3, 4 years in Kenya, we've seen a new products and a few new strategies to control fungal diseases, to sort out ethylene issues, but also some new strategies to prevent diseases in the fields and in the greenhouses. And I think that just helps us to have a better product that is ready to push storage, transport, and logistics to the limit.
Yeah.
I think in this time and day and age, you should consider sea freight, but please keep in mind that it also might be air freight and storage. It might be long distance transport. Anything that takes time, we can make it work if we have the temperatures and the other conditions right.
Yeah, but you're saying with sea transport, it's even more important to get everything right than by air, if I'm correct.
If you make a mistake today in air freight, you'll find out by tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you make a mistake in sea freight, you'll find out in about 5 to 6 weeks. And by that time, you have another 5 weeks cash flow at sea. So
yeah.
Any mistake will be an expensive mistake. So I think that is there as in don't gamble. Do this seriously or don't do it.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide there. Yep.
Yeah, so we've also worked out packaging. We need to have a few changes compared to the regular packaging. So we made changes to boxes and issues to prevent dehydration.
Yeah.
To prevent heat build-up and to prevent ethylene issues. So this is partly packaging, partly treating, and I think we found the right balance there.
Okay, yeah, so it's all those things together. It's not just one thing that you can say, okay, this is the way to go cold or go do this technique or that technique.
No, I think there's a whole list of risks and KPIs that we should meet, and I think that is where all of them together give us the control.
Yeah.
Let's say we can have the best botrytis control. If the temperatures are not right, it will be a disaster. If we have the best botrytis control, the best temperatures, but the dehydration doesn't work, it's a disaster. If the boxes collapse, the flowers are damaged. If a Kenyan cold room is at 0.5 degree, 1.5 degree, we have to be aware that elsewhere in the world, and even in the Netherlands, cold rooms might not be good enough to receive sea-freighted flowers. So it's dedication all the way through.
Okay, well it's a flower business is a serious business, but sea freight makes it even more serious.
The stakes are higher. The results might be very worthwhile. Yeah, I think that's where we have the challenges.
Yeah.
I think also with the sea freight, we have new shipping lines calling into the port of Mombasa.
Yeah.
Which means competition on routes, sailing frequencies, more competitions on technology and pricing. So this is a container of CMA CGM, the French shipping line that just started to call into the port of Mombasa as of last year, May. So there's finally choice, and I think that's just very worthwhile.
Yeah, I'm seeing the containers at the moment. It's for the people who don't know anything about sea transport. It's a special type of container, isn't it?
It's like a traveling fridge almost, but in a highly specialized fridge. So it's a box with a cooling unit on it, and that box is really good for keeping cool without dehydration. If you leave flowers in a regular cold room, that cold room that you know on the farm or the cold room at the trading company, it's probably designed with a high overcapacity. It's really good at making cool, but because it dehydrates the flowers, many times it requires us to put flowers on buckets. Well, buckets are not very efficient in shipping and storing flowers. So this container is there to, just imagine beans. Beans are sold in trays of 250 grams. If the beans dry out and it's 230 grams, the supermarket will not accept it. So that's our reefer technology. It's special floors, special air circulation, special settings. And I think then recently there's also technology to control the oxygen and carbon dioxide levels. Okay. I think the regular technology available was not very suitable to flowers, but this is now getting better and better.
Yeah.
So that's helping us to build those trade lanes.
Yeah, and if you say the reefer technique or the cooling technique, it doesn't dry out flowers. Why aren't we using it as export companies or let's say everybody who is storing flowers?
Good question. I think in the Netherlands we've built a flower business where flowers are always on the move. Let's say the auction functions as this big instrument to level out price and demand. If the demand is high, or production is high, demand is low, the system lowers the price and all the flowers will go.
Yeah.
And this storage might just be another way to control, to match production and demand. I would even say because of the auction clock, there cannot be storage, but we cannot change away from the clock without storage. There will be differences in supply and demand. We need a system that levels that one out. But I think in Netherlands we grew big on the auction market. And the auction market, hey, there's too many flowers. The mechanism lowers the price. The flowers still go. It's a miracle. Every day that auction floor is empty. No matter how much you put onto it, every day it's empty. Well, I think that comes with the price, as in, hey, we might lower the prices to get rid of this excess volumes.
Yeah.
Over Christmas, the market is down, and we all know that these red roses are in high demand about 5-6 weeks later. I think it would just be fantastic to have more flowers available on the moment that people desire them most.
Yeah. And growers don't have to do crazy things to make a big peak or all those kind of things for those big holidays.
No, I think there's a big price to pay for this peak production. In Kenya, we do flushing. In Netherlands, we play around with heating and lighting. It's all there to produce a fresh product. I think that's the technology that we've worked on for the last years. Is this idea of temperatures and time, degree hours. We've explained it in our previous session.
Yeah.
But I think with that model, we can play around with volumes. And I think many times it will be much more worthwhile to use logistics to adjust demand and supply than to use production methods, and likely far more sustainable. All this extra natural gas to produce roses, a peaking of rose production just before Valentine's Day. We could also just gently continue producing, and when the market over the Christmas holiday is down, let's push those flowers with logistic methods to the right point where demand is high. Yeah. I think that in a certain way, if you ever want to make a serious deal from flowers to online marketing, the internet sales, we need to have those technologies. So I think as soon as I talk sea freight, I'm also talking storage and efficient logistics, but it's also bringing supply to time-wise to the right moment in time.
Yeah, but going back to the reefers and let's say the conventional coolers. So in Holland, we built cold storage. Mm-hmm. People who wanted to work in flowers flew to Holland. What do they have? Probably they have the best stuff, so they all copied those coolers.
Yeah.
And now looking back on how the market is changing, mm-hmm. A reefer kind of system could be better than what we are using at the moment.
Yes, yeah. Well, let's say it's all research from UC Davis, Florida State, Clemson, Wageningen University, Volcani Center in Israel, for years and years and years, for the last 30, 40 years. Between 0 and 1 degree is the right temperatures for flowers, at a humidity as high as possible.
Yeah.
So there's nothing new there. It's just we've built a logistic system that is not anywhere near what the research is recommending. And just look at that data and look at how our industry might look like. And hey, a 7-degree cold room is not good enough. It's good enough to escape paying extra salaries for the people, for the workers in cold rooms, but it's not anywhere near good enough for our flowers. Yeah. I think there's all aligning efforts throughout the supply chain. But we can be more sustainable in our transports. We can have more flowers on the right peak days when our customers like to have our product. We can probably have a bigger audience buying our product. Well, I think that's the opportunities there. And if you see, I'm from rural Hardersveen. It is a small flower growing village just south of Amsterdam, just south of the airport. If you look at how our grandfathers worked the fields 50 years ago and how flowers are produced today, it's an enormous difference.
Yeah.
If you look at how our grandfathers handled flowers in the early 70s, putting them on square auction buckets, putting them on an auction trolley. So from outdoor fields, no heating, no lighting, to automated robotics, heat coming from the soil, carbon dioxide, fertilizing. It's fantastic what we've done in production. And there's been a 50-year standstill in flower logistics. A 50-year standstill. And if this business has a value of 9 billion euro, if 1/3 is logistics cost, that's where we can and will make savings and where we will be competitive.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I mean, you know that it's important, but if you put it like this, you're thinking why we're still on a standstill with transport.
Yeah, let's say it's not that we've been stupid. We've grown the business so much. I think it's now just the right time. It's just like your car that you bought 5 years ago. It was a really nice car. It's not, that one is not a terrible one now, but the one that you buy next year will be electric and it will be better. And I think that's where we are. This is just the right time to move into flower logistics and storage.
Yeah, great. You have to go back all the way as well to see if it's worthy of sea transport. So I think we just go back to the next slide to see what's the next step. And there we have it.
Yeah, so after all the work in post-harvest treatment, packing and cooling, we've taken the flowers to our lab in rural Hardersveen. And these are the flowers tested in our laboratory here. Next slide, I can show you some of our results.
Okay. So here we have two different ones.
Yeah.
So the first video, because I got the videos apart from each other, so people can see it better. The first one is air, and the other one is sea freight.
Yeah. So they was both harvested on the same day. The first one on the left was taken to our lab, air freight, tested, and the other one was 5 days transport by air and 5.5 weeks transport by sea. And just you can show the results.
No, this is the sea freight first, I see. They are opening up really nice.
Yeah. Let's say I had a challenge seeing that video, that second one, Sean.
Yeah. So this was the one with the air freight.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no difference.
And for the layman, the difference is negligible.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't see the difference, and I quickly already spoiled the surprise. It's with other products, it's more or less the same. Yeah.
Let's say it's good enough. It's not yet perfect, but this is Kenia. The roses are grown by the big international firms. This is the Amimayas white, Amimayas visnaga, Queen of Africa. And this is what Kenya's smallholders are producing and putting onto the market.
Yeah.
Again, this is air freight versus sea freight.
They drink a lot of water. That's what I can see as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Eh? That's I love it to work with those with these time-lapse videos.
Yeah. And so this is the sea freight.
Yeah, this is the sea freight. We had some minor issues with the foliage.
Yeah.
Just overall, you can give this to any florist, and they can put it into their bouquets without hesitation.
Yeah. I mean, this is great. But is this an overall thing you see when of course there are still some issues with sea transport, but quality-wise, can you match or even be better than by air with sea transport?
Well, I'll say in air freight we have excellent shipments, we have good shipments, average, and every now and then we have some very poor shipments. I would say that professional sea freight is as good as or better than air freight.
Yeah.
But let's say but make mistakes in sea freight and we will have trouble. Make mistakes in air freight and we will have trouble. Yeah. I think the challenge for the market will be to set a standard. When, for instance, how do you sell flowers? Currently, Kenyan flowers are shipped to the auction by air. That's what everybody knows. Very professional sea freight with the best farms and the best varieties. I'll have no doubt to guarantee that quality.
Yeah.
But give it to 50 different farms in Kenya, and we will be sure that 15 to 20 of them will be very professional. Another 20 of them are really working hard, but they've grown too fast, their cold rooms are too small, their greenhouses too big. And there will be maybe 10 gamblers there.
Yeah.
And how do we distinguish the professionals from the gamblers? And I think that's where we can play a role. We have the right KPIs, we have our test room, we have our audits, we have our quality checks, we have our monitoring. And I think we can play that role and distinguish the professionals, the Champions League, from somewhere the Little League, where the young kids are running around.
Yeah, I mean, you told me before we started to go live that sea freight is also something. It's not a trick from a book. Okay, follow step 1 to 10, and it fits for every grower.
No, I think that is where, just depending on the farm, depending on the product, depending on the route, there is different points of focus, and I believe that for products like carnations, like the summer flowers, like the hypericum, we can make things work.
Yeah.
And that is where we have our lab. Even if you feel uncomfortable to ship 5 or 10 tons in one go, we can still have these experiments done in the lab, and we'll take you there towards shipping half containers, full containers, but we take you there securely, successful, and just make things work.
Okay, great. Let's continue with the presentation, because I really, I'm learning a lot, and hopefully people watching as well.
Yeah.
So the why now? I think we discussed it already, that air freight is scarce and very expensive.
Yeah, and maybe just to underline how expensive and how scarce air freight is, I think that Kenya knows the high season and the low season. So high season is October to June, and low season is July to September. Normally in low season, the number of the freighter capacity drops, and in high season, the freighter capacity increases. Well, this year what we saw in Kenya, from low season to high season, the amount of air cargo capacity dropped. Prices went up, capacity dropped. And that's just before the main, we still have Christmas, Valentine's Day, UK Mother's Day, Women's Day, all coming. It's going to be the most challenging year in the history of Kenya's flower business.
Yeah, I mean, we all seen the pictures of boxes stacked into the cabin place as well.
Yeah.
At first I thought I was smiling, and I thought, okay, they're trying everything and talking with you as well, and then I thought, yeah, but at what temperature are they in the cabin? And because I don't think the pilot will sit at 3 degrees and fly the plane from Africa to Holland.
No, I'll guess that the cabin probably cannot go any lower than 16 degrees. But again, this is where our degree hour concept to assess flower supply chain is so important. Let's say there's a need to get these flowers from origin to destination. There's a need to get these flowers to the market. And of course, this is not the preferred way. This is not the preferred setup. But just imagine if it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening in Nairobi, and the flowers are perfectly at 1.5, 2 degrees. This plane is loaded. It leaves around midnight. It arrives in Netherlands the following morning around 7. If at 7 the normal unloading of a plane takes an hour, this time it takes 2 hours. Yeah. It takes 2 hours to get it to the market. If that time the flowers have increased from 1 degree to, let's say, 12 degrees, if we have the right recipe for accepting, as in receive the flowers, make cool, break the critical mass that causes the heating, break the pellets, make cool, keep cool, then we probably have lost not more than half day fast life. So not ideal, but I would say within limits, within boundaries, and at least we get those flowers over. And I think that is where Amsterdam is such an excellent airport to receive flowers. There is 5 or 10 vacuum coolers around at the airport for a quick receive, make cool, keep cool protocol. Yeah. So not a preferred setup, but still effective, still worthwhile.
Yeah. Colombia, for example, is one of the markets that already has a lot of experience with traveling flowers by sea.
Yeah, I've checked the figures by Flores, the Growers Association in Colombia. They reported 2,000 reefers per year. A big part of those reefers will be before the peak days, the Mother's Day, the Valentine's Day. And I found this picture on the LinkedIn of Capiro. They are celebrating their 7,000th container. So let's say seafreight is there. It's not new, it's just as in people to pick it up. I think from Kenya to Colombia, the heavy products like carnations, the business case will just be a few notches better in Colombia than Kenya. Yeah. You want to start value adding where volume might be a challenge, or volume in air freight will attract volumetric charges, but in sea freight, value adding, saving on labor might really well work out against the cost of a reefer. Yeah. So I think this is all, we have a new logistic method, and there will be more products, more business models effective and working just because we have this technology. I think also Colombia has done an excellent job in growing their chrysanthemum market, while Kenya is still very much focusing on roses. Yeah. I think that with chrysanthemums, sea freight just makes perfect sense. Maybe to put it in a perspective, I think that the 2,000 reefers a year is about 8 to 12% of Colombia's exports. It will also be about 8 to 12% of Kenya's exports. So I think that for the next 1 or 2 years, that's a very realistic, healthy target. Yeah. Where things will end up in the future, I have no idea. But this is where I think for investors to secure jobs in Kenya, I think this is just the right thing to do and add this containerized exports to the logistic mix. Yeah,
but nothing comes without challenges, I think. The harbor, are they prepared for reefers? Are they prepared for getting such an amount of flowers? Or at least I think it's a big amount of flowers. Maybe the port thinks it's just a few containers.
No, I think that if you would, so let's say Kenya's fresh export, the main product is avocados. That's about 3,000 to 5,000 reefers a year. I think if you take all of Kenya's air freight market and put it into reefers, that would be 500 containers a week. Yeah. Quickly, that would be 26,000 containers a year. So I think it's the port of Kenya is not big yet, but there's been massive investment in the port of Mombasa, and it might actually become one of the hubs for sea freight, for container logistics for the Indian Ocean. So on the right, the top picture, you see the old container terminal. In the center, you see phase 1, phase 2, and then phase 3 is already on the construction of the new container terminal. You also see that the SDR, the new train that Kenya's pride, there's a train taking containers from Mombasa into Nairobi and even further into Kenya and hopefully in the future all the way up to Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and even South Sudan and maybe the Congo.
Yeah, there's a big difference between normal containers and reefers. Reefers need electricity to run the cooler. Is it possible on the train?
No. At the moment, it requires a big investment to get electricity on the containers, on the train.
Yeah.
And even in Europe, there's a daily fresh train from Italy to the Netherlands. Even those trains are without electricity. So it's possible, it exists, but it's not yet available in Kenya. But Ethiopia and South Africa are also struggling with the same for their reefer exports. They have to use the railroad network because of the lack of electricity. So it's there. I expect that one day in time it will come. For the short term, we are stuck to trucking.
Yeah, okay. You already mentioned it, avocados and mangoes.
Yeah, I think that is where, if you're looking at sea freight of cut flowers, Ecuador and Colombia are enormous production of bananas and other fresh fruit. Just the banana industry already calls for 4 direct sailings a week, container ships from Colombia to Western Europe. Wow. In Kenya, we have 3-4 departures a week of small feeder ships going to the bigger ports in the Middle East. I think on the positive side, Kenya is growing its avocado production, it's growing its mango production, it's trying to get the ban on mango exports lifted to the EU. So all these different products will bring the critical mass needed for professional port operations, for shipping lines to up their game and bring in more frequency, more capacities. So I think all in all, this is a very positive development for Kenya. But we need all the volumes that we can get to be a serious player.
Yeah.
As I just mentioned, Kenya's flowers, avocado, and mango exports are growing. And I think it will just be worthwhile for future investors. If you want to build the next flower farm, if you want to invest in the next avocado plantation, the whole business deal becomes better if there's a second mode of transport.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Like you said, a lot of opportunities.
No, just traditionally, and maybe you can already put on the next slide, Jeroen, otherwise traditionally, the North American market is supplied by Ecuador and Colombia. Their weights, their load rates per aircraft are better, their air freight charges are much better. And Kenya just has a challenge getting flowers into the American market, just because of the available capacity, the prices. The Kenyan packaging is not competitive with the Colombians. And just forget about anything heavy or anything value adding. But with sea freights, if it's taking $12,000, $15,000, depending on the technology that you choose to get your flowers from Mombasa into Western Europe, Southampton in the UK or Rotterdam in the Netherlands, if you would add another $2,000 there, that container will be on the east coast of the US. So I would say with new logistic methods, all of a sudden, Kenya might be a player in the US market.
Yeah, like Colombia started to be a player on the UK market with the chrysanthemums.
Yeah. And I think that this will make it will bring a bit of instability on the market, but it also brings plenty of new opportunities.
Yeah, well, great. Also very important.
Yeah, this is the study that we've done on sea freight for Kenya's sea freight onto the European market. We learned that the first European retailers are buying carbon credits to offset the footprint of flown in products. So it means even if the grower and the trader are not directly hit, the supermarket will see this footprint as a cost. Now, the other study on the UK side, we found that air freight to sea freight, there will be a 95% reduction in the carbon footprint. And that's an enormous achievement. And just imagine that in the next years, it might be 98% air freight and 2% sea freight. If we bring that to 10-12%, it will have a very positive effect on our overall footprint. Yeah. How far that balance between air freight and sea freight will go, I'm not sure, but it's a big opportunity.
Yeah, as we see, it will never take over 100% of all the air freight. But how big it will grow, that's another question.
Now, something else that we see in the sea freight, I think this slide gives you an idea of the price fluctuations over the year. A big peak from January to February. In February, late February, early March, there's still some effect of Women's Day. But then in April, prices are terrible, followed by a big peak in demand for Mother's Day in Europe. And I think just imagine that, or over Christmas, when the market is down because of people are being on Christmas holiday, if we load our containers over that period, we might have them arriving just in time to hit Valentine's Day.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, and not easier. It's still a big risk. But I think that this is just one of the ways for sea freight to enter this market. Yeah. Is to look at this period in the year. In July, if there's a hot summer, with people on holiday and production being high, we might have some of our July production shifted to late August, when usually the market is much better.
Yeah, when the 1st of September with the opening of the schools again, those celebrations.
Yeah, no, I think that's where you are the expert on the Eastern European market.
Yeah,
I think there's also always something happening in the. I think on the Colombian, Ecuadorian side, it's probably a standard. Prune your crops late November, early December to create this big flush for Valentine's Day. And I'm really happy that I don't have to take that decision, because this year, in the next 1 to 3 weeks, producers in Kenya have to tell their staff, go into the greenhouse, prune the crop, create a flush, or they don't have to take it. But this year, we might create a peak in production, but will the air freight be there? We might have double or triple the production ready to hit the market, but if there is no air freight capacity available, then these flowers might arrive 5-6 weeks later, but then there's no special demand in the market. So I think that's I would feel more comfortable taking my money to the casino than on pruning your crop and praying over Christmas to see if air freight capacity will be there.
Wow, unbelievable! I mean, that's a very difficult decision to make, especially now that you already know, and we've seen it in the news everywhere, that 20% of the flowers can't leave because of lack of air freight.
No, I think that is how serious it is. I think this is, for Kenya's flower business, East Africa flower business, this is the biggest, maybe the biggest crisis in their in their time.
Yeah, and it's out of their reach. I mean, sometimes something happened within the country, but now we're talking about air freight, and it's unbelievable. A lot of planes are still on the ground. Of course, passenger planes. But still.
Well, but there's not, as the Atlantic routes are open again. Planes are flying again, so there's not that many passenger aircraft left.
Yeah.
The networks are gearing up. So it helps a little bit on the Kenyan side, but KLM, there used to be 2 daily flights to Amsterdam, Paris, and London from Nairobi.
Yeah.
And currently, there is 5 flights a week for 5 plus 2 for Amsterdam, 4 plus 2 for Paris, and London might be also about the daily flight. So Kenya is still operating on 50%.
Yeah.
So let's say there is something around, and if you pay enough money, but then the regular 180 has already turned into 2.5. Well, charter capacity might take a few dollars a kilo more.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, there are also, it's not that sea transport is without any challenges, I think.
Oh, no. Yeah, I think the biggest delays ever in container transport, the biggest prices per container ever are, that's what we currently see. Everybody knows the blockage of the Suez Canal. Well,
Yeah.
that effect is ebbing away. But worldwide, the ports can't handle the volumes. There was an article in the Dutch newspaper that before the COVID came, the price for a container China Europe was about $1,800, $1,800. Currently, $12,000 seems like a discounted fee. $12,000 a container.
Yeah.
So this is, yeah, it's enormous what's happening there.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a picture that's found in one of the newsletters on sea freight. There's a shortage of containers. There's port congestions. There's the Suez Canal blockage, and there's something called blank sailing. So the shipping line puts in a schedule of weekly departures from Mombasa.
Yeah.
Actually, because of all the delays, there might be, as in, oh, sorry, next week there will not be a sailing. Just imagine that you have 3-4 containers there. Just imagine that over Christmas, that one sailing will not go. That will be a big challenge because all the flowers might arrive after Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and the delays on ships are way bigger than with a plane on average.
Yes, yeah, a lot.
Yeah. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, I think this wasn't a bit of around the pricing of reefer shipments from Mombasa to Rotterdam.
Yeah.
Kenya is not very competitive when it comes to sea freight. It's with effort and a bit of perseverance. The business model can work, will work. But if you see the cost from shipping from South America, Central America to Europe, it's way more competitive price-wise than what we see from Mombasa, Europe. There's excessive cost from Nairobi to Mombasa, 3,000 USD for a 500 kilometer trip. $2,500 inside South Africa gives you a inland distance of 2,000 kilometers covered. So Kenya still has a challenge to make the business case work.
Yeah, but as there will be more transport and more sea containers going around, probably prices will drop as well, with more players on the market.
Yeah, no, I think that will just bring the economies of scale will start kicking in.
Yeah.
I think this slide is a bit technical for this setup, but the port in Mombasa is very good for tea or coffee or other dry cargo.
Yeah.
But for perishables, we need to have a genset, an electricity generator on the container. That one has to be taken off 2 kilometers before you enter the port, and then your container goes into the port. Well, if that takes 10 minutes, fine. But if there's a delay at customs, it might take 12 hours.
Yeah.
And that's what we can't have in reefer transport.
Yeah. Okay. Shipping routes. I mean, there are shipping routes, and a lot, I see. But there's always a stopover somewhere. Yeah,
let's say from South America, there are routes that the ship leaves the port in Colombia, crosses the Atlantic Ocean, and immediately calls into Rotterdam. I don't think there's anything like that from the Africa's east coast to Western Europe. So you could go into Southern Europe, but the market there can accept a full container of flowers, but unfortunately we are bringing in a full container of roses. So that's where still there's a big challenge to overcome size of the market, frequency of the shipments, and that means the natural point where you want to have your flowers land is Rotterdam, and therefore the Aalsmeer Naaldwijk flower market.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of development needed to make it work. So while the ambition might be to reach 20-30% of the volumes or more, short term, let's get past the 2% or the 5% mark and see how far we reach.
Yeah, and like we said before, it's really per grower, per variety, per flower.
Yeah.
You need to figure out how it works.
Yeah, but that's where we have our team of experts on the Kenyan side, on the Netherlands side. Let's say we need to get the treatments right, we need to get the quality right, but then we need to build a model that works for every box, every stem in the container. Then the second step is that we start building trust. It's not that we get things done right once. We must build a trade lane with weekly excellent arrivals. And that is where our lab in Netherlands and our experts here can play a big role to make the comparison air freight, sea freight. Partly, if not good enough, to give feedback to the farms, or if good enough, to share it with your customers and build that confidence. That is so critical. I don't want to see this as something secret or nasty that we pull up on the flower buyers. I think this is a joint effort to be more sustainable, more efficient, and also to help, as in, hey, everybody can sell more flowers over Valentine's Day than over Christmas. So let's make sure that we serve that market when the demand is there. And let's agree on the rules of this game. Let's agree on the right KPIs, the right quality standard. And that's where we've put everything in a smart document as in the Flower Watch quality standard for international flower supply chains. I think put that document on the table when you buy your flowers, and you can just see as in, hey, this is professional, yes or no. And if not, let's talk what we need to do next week to make things better. And there will always be people who like to gamble a bit more than others. That's not up to me. I like to know things for sure. So the right temperatures, packaging, treatments will get things working. It can be done. Yeah,
and especially with such a bulk volume with the containers, you can't take any risks.
No. Let's say if let's say there's quite a few farms, a 40 to 50 hectare farm in Kenya might do a few containers by themselves on a weekly basis. But if you then have 5-6 week transport, and you make a mistake in the cooling, the packaging, or the set points, that will be something big, because then if you've made a mistake, there's another 10 containers on the way with possibly the same mistake. But that is where we feel comfortable that we can work with the farms and their customers to make this work.
But listening to your story as well, it requires some investments from the growers or from the whole chain. But on the other hand, as a grower, probably you can get better results as well using the harvest that's done just after Christmas time for Valentine's. So to get better prices, for example, than just shipping it out after Christmas and not getting the prices you need.
No, I think that is, let's say it's working towards excellence. And that excellence will enable you to make a choice between air freight, sea freight, air freight and storage. I think we like to be there to enable the professionals in this business to make the right decisions, to build up these new methods for packaging and storage and shipping quickly, professionally, with the results as good as possible, with the risk as small as we can.
Great. I mean, so for people who are interested, go to Flower Watch, contact Jeroen or contact Flower Circus, and I will send Jeroen all the details, because this is the future. It's not going to be 100% sea freight, that's for sure, but it's a very, very welcome addition to how we ship our flowers, I think. So,
I think this is just moving forward, as in, hey, the first people who put lighting into their greenhouses, the first people with thermal screens, the first people in hydroponics, these are all normal day-to-day practices. And I think if we look back 5-6 years from now, we can just see as in, hey, we've made the right choice at the time, and we have this as a healthy addition to our logistic mix.
Can't agree more. Jeroen, thank you so much for your time again and sharing your knowledge. If you want to know more, like I said, go to Flower Circus or Flower Watch to learn more about this. If you need help with checking the quality, and they do so many things. Check out their website. Check out Jeroen on LinkedIn as well, because he's writing a very interesting articles there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeroen, thanks again.
Thank you, Jeroen.
And thank you everybody for watching, and hope to see you soon.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.